For Telesur, I'm Cody Weddle in Caracas. In the Middle East, a ceasefire has begun, potentially ending the deadly 29-day Israeli assault on Palestine. The 72-hour truce started at 8 a.m. local time this Tuesday following talks in Cairo. There have been conflicting reports about attacks from both sides shortly before the start of the ceasefire. All Israeli troops have now withdrawn from Gaza. 1,800 Palestinians have died and 10,000 have suffered injuries since the Israeli attack so far. According to UNICEF, nearly 400 Palestinian children are among the dead. In the 29-day attack on Gaza, the latest truce marks the 8th such attempt. Others include the July 16th ceasefire proposal by Hamas, which Israel rejected, as well as the UN-brokered ceasefire on July 17th that Israel broke after 5 hours. On July 26th, a 12-hour ceasefire failed. A day later, Hamas rejected an Israeli offer, saying that it did not include a requirement for Israeli troops to withdraw. In the last week, Israel has quickly abandoned 2 ceasefires, breaking a 72-hour ceasefire called on August 1st after 1 hour, as well as another one August 4th, only hours after it began. To Latin America now. Venezuelan Foreign Minister Elias Jagua is in Egypt today to coordinate the flow of his country's Palestinian aid for Palestine. Jagua is also looking to secure safe passage for wounded or orphaned Palestinian children to Venezuela, to whom the government has offered to take in. Jagua also visited Tehran to take part in meetings with countries of the non-aligned movement. With general elections in Bolivia only months away, the country's electoral tribunal has begun preparations. That includes arranging the ballots that voters will receive at the polls. For the latest on the preparations in Bolivia, we go to our correspondent there, David Daughtry.
The Bolivian Supreme Electoral Tribunal held a raffle to determine the order in which the candidates will appear on the ballot in the October presidential elections.
The raffle is a public act, and it's an additional act of transparency for the Supreme Electoral Tribunal.
The 5 political parties registered to participate in elections include the governing left-wing Movement Towards Socialism Party, the center-left Movement Without Fear Party, the right-wing National Unity Party, the Christian Democratic Party, and the Green Party.
This is the ballot that will officially be used on October the 12th.
President Evo Morales of MAS is running for re-election and is currently leading the election polls with between 41 and 50% of the support of those surveyed. Candidate Samuel Doria Medina of the right-wing National Unity Party is running in second place with between 9 and 24%. President Morales' party MAS drew the number 4 position in the ballot raffle.
What is important is that everything is clear and transparent. The location on the ballot depends upon what comes out. It is depending upon luck.
The 7-member Supreme Electoral Tribunal was established by the country's new constitution, approved by popular referendum in 2009.
Elections in Bolivia are just over 2 months away, as the 5 presidential candidates' campaigns are heating up ahead of the vote. Reporting from La Paz, Bolivia, this is David Daughtry with Telesur.
The Mexican Senate will soon end debate on the country's controversial energy reform legislation. The laws would open up Mexican oil to privatization. Mexico is the world's 10th leading producer of oil. Mexico's oil industry has been in public hands for 7 decades. Income from the state oil company Pemex accounts for almost 40% of the national budget. For more on what privatization could mean for Mexico, we go to our correspondent there, Clayton Kahn.
Fierce debates over a package of secondary laws to Mexico's controversial energy reform continues to dominate headlines. Lawmakers were expected to make their final decisions this past week. However, members from the lower house sent back the legislation to the Senate for a second vote. Lawmakers are expected to approve the legislation by this Thursday through a coalition of the ruling Institutional Revolutionary Party, the center-right National Action Party, and the Green Party. After final votes, the President Enrique Peña Nieto will need to sign the legislation into law in a public ceremony. A coalition of opposition left parties have decried the laws, declaring them an attempt to privatize the national energy sector, and are collecting signatures to hold a national referendum by this September.
As UNICEF prepares for its first forum for citizen participation, Ecuadorian leaders are touting their country's advancements in popular participation in government. A number of measures have been put in place there in recent years to encourage involvement and give the public more direct governmental access. Those included workshops in the National Assembly, initiated by the Council of Citizen Participation and Social Control, along with the Ministry of Foreign and Human Mobility. UNASUR's Citizen Participation Forum is set for this month in Cochabamba, Bolivia. An opposition leader in the Democratic Republic of Congo has been jailed today, according to his party. Jean-Bertrand Uwanga of the Union for the Nation Party was arrested after thousands took to the streets in Kinshasa today. Protesters lashed out at rumors that President Joseph Kabila is looking to extend his term past the current maximum of 10 years. Kushiba is currently in Washington for the U.S. African Leadership Summit. Extremists from the Islamic State organization have spilled into Lebanon from their strongholds in Syria. At least 16 Lebanese soldiers were killed as the group, formerly known as ISIS, took over the town of Arsal on Sunday. Infrastructure for Arsal's Syrian refugee population has been affected by the Islamic State's invasion. Ukrainian government forces are advancing on the town of Donetsk near the Russian border, looking to retake the town from independence forces. The government has issued warnings to citizens in Donetsk to abandon their homes. Residents there are currently living without many basic services due to Ukrainian army shelling. The UN has warned a mass exodus is possible, with 730,000 having fled to Russia this year. A former World Player of the Year has announced his retirement from international play. Barcelona star Xavi Hernandez announced that he will no longer play for Spain. The midfielder played over 100 games for the senior national team and was key in Spain's 2010 World Cup win, as well as the 2008 and 2012 European Championships. The 2010 World Player of the Year will continue at Barcelona. Plenty more on those stories at our website, telesurtv.net/English. For Telesur English, I'm Cody Waddle.